They didn't just steal my name. They stole my future, my paycheck, my trust. And now they want me to stay silent because family doesn't air dirty laundry. But what if the people who raised you are the same people who robbed you blind? What if mom forged your signature and dad let it happen? Because you're young, you'll recover. This isn't just a sad story about broken trust. It's a warning that sometimes the ones who hurt you worst don't break in from the outside. They're already inside your home, inside your head, signing your name. So now the question isn't, do I forgive them? It's, do I send my own parents to jail? And that, right there, is where it all began. You know, it's strange what you can normalize when it comes from the people who raised you. Growing up, I never really understood money. Not in the way a child should, where it's just this invisible thing parents use to make life move along. For me, money was chaos. It was tension. It was silence, then yelling, then long nights pretending I was asleep while my parents argued in the next room about bills and calls from the bank. My mom and dad both had good jobs. On paper, they earned 3 times what I ever have. Yet somehow we were always behind. Rent late, water cut off, electricity flickering out mid-dinner. I remember nights huddled next to a candle pretending it was fun while my stomach twisted from fear. I was the youngest, the quiet one, and maybe that's why they used me. Maybe that's why they thought I wouldn't say anything. By the time I was 12, I'd learned to be the family's spokesperson. I was the one who called Grandma to ask for money when the fridge was empty. I was the one who took my part-time job earnings and lent it to Mom because she just needed it until Friday. I was the one who packed my own school lunches because she was too tired, but I still loved them. Or maybe I loved the version of them I needed them to be. What hurts the most is knowing that at some point it stopped being about survival and started being about manipulation. My mom still bought jewelry when the power was shut off. She still posted on Facebook with shiny handbags and fake smiles while I stressed about whether we'd be evicted again. I should have known something was wrong when they started asking for personal details. We just need your ID to set up this account. Or, the cable company won't let us open a new account. Just let us use your name. It's fine. I was barely 18 when I realized they'd opened accounts under my name. Not once, not twice, but enough to leave a shadow on my credit before I even knew what a credit score was. When I confronted them, they acted like I was the problem. My mom said I was being dramatic. My dad just walked out of the room. I tried to move on. I got a job. I lived simply. I paid for everything myself. And I never looked back. But life has a funny way of circling back just when you think you're safe. Just last month, I was looking forward to my income tax return. Not to splurge, just to survive. COVID had taken a toll on my hours. That money was supposed to help me breathe. Instead, I got a letter from the courthouse. At first, I thought it was a mistake, some clerical error, but the more I read, the colder my blood turned. A company had taken me to court for unpaid bills, bills I never knew existed. I called my mom immediately. Her voice was fake sweet, like it always is when she's hiding something. She said, "Don't worry, sweetie, I'll fix it." But I didn't believe her, not this time. So I called the court myself. That's when I learned the truth. And trust me, it only gets worse from here. The woman on the phone from the courthouse had a kind voice. Too kind, honestly. Like she was trying to cushion a blow she already knew would land hard. She explained everything slowly, carefully, as if I were a child. Apparently, for the past year, there had been a legal process against me. A company had been trying to collect on unpaid utility bills opened under my name. They had mailed court notices, collections letters, warnings, all of it sent to my parents' house, all of it signed for, all of it ignored. I felt like the room started spinning. My name, my identity, my future, dragged through the mud without even knowing it. My hands were shaking when I hung up. I called my mom again. This time, I didn't ask questions. I demanded answers. And her response? Chilling. She laughed, like this was some sitcom plot twist. I told you I'd handle it, she said. It's just a few bills. You'll survive. You're young, you bounce back. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. It's your duty to help the family. You're our daughter. I froze. That sentence, it's your duty, echoed in my head like a gunshot in an empty room. It wasn't a justification. It was a confession. In her mind, what she did wasn't wrong. She didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. A deliberate, selfish, and illegal choice to use me, to use my name, my future, my identity, as a human shield for their failures. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even cry. The betrayal was too deep for tears, and just when I thought it couldn't get worse, she handed the phone to my sister. Now, my sister and I have never been especially close, but we've always been civil. That ended the moment she opened her mouth. You're blowing this out of proportion, she snapped. Mom and Dad gave you life, and now you're crying over a couple $1,000s? She called me ungrateful, spoiled, dramatic, spoiled. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake them both and ask if they remembered who cleaned out the fridge when it had mold, who wore hand-me-down shoes until the soles were gone, who got a second job in college to pay rent because they spent the grocery money on designer purses and gym memberships. But I didn't say any of that. I just hung up, and I sat there, completely numb. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything. Every time I let something slide because they were family. Every time I turned the other cheek when they made me beg Grandma for help. Every time I told myself, they'll get better, they're trying, it's not that bad. But it was that bad. It is that bad. They didn't just hurt me emotionally, they committed identity theft. They stole from me, hid it, lied about it, and still tried to justify it. And now, the government is taking part of every paycheck I earn until the debt is cleared. No warning, no mercy. I couldn't even buy groceries that week. My boyfriend found me crying in the kitchen because I was trying to figure out whether I could pay my phone bill or buy food. And I haven't even told you the worst part yet. Because in the middle of all this, while I was panicking, starving, unraveling, my mother was posting Facebook selfies, smiling, flashing the same jewelry she couldn't afford to pay the bills with. She hasn't apologized, not once. And deep down, I think she still believes she did nothing wrong. I stopped answering their calls. At first, I thought they'd panic. Maybe they'd realize what they did. Maybe they'd show some kind of remorse. But they didn't. Instead, I got a group text from my mom. It read, "You're really doing all this over a few bills? You've always been so dramatic. You'll regret turning your back on your family one day." No apology, no explanation, just another guilt trip. Another stone added to a mountain that's been pressing on my chest since childhood. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked her number. I didn't even cry. Not because I wasn't hurting, but because I had cried so much over them in the past that I had nothing left. It was a quiet kind of pain, the kind that settles in your bones and stays there. Heavy, cold, familiar. That was the moment something inside me cracked, and not in a loud or obvious way. It wasn't an explosion, it was more like a click, a quiet decision. They don't deserve me anymore. Because when I looked back, really looked back, I started seeing all the red flags I used to excuse. Like when I was 13 and they made me work summer jobs while they went on vacations they couldn't afford. Or when I was 17 and got into my dream college, but they forgot to help me apply for financial aid and told me to take a year off and figure it out. Or the dozens of times I opened the fridge to find nothing but expired condiments while my mother came home with a new handbag she'd gotten on sale. I used to tell myself they were trying their best, but that was a lie I told myself to survive. The truth? They were always drowning, and they used me as their life raft. And now, years later, that same pattern had resurfaced. Except this time, they didn't just lean on me. They climbed on top of me. They pushed me under, and they smiled while doing it. I spent that night alone in my apartment, lights off, staring at the ceiling. I felt like a shell of myself, Like all the parts of me that still wanted to believe in family had just vanished. The next morning, I did something I never imagined I would. I took the courthouse letter out of the drawer, and I called my uncle. He's a retired attorney. He's also one of the few people in my family who never treated me like a piggy bank with a pulse. When I told him what happened, there was a long silence. Then he sighed and said the words I didn't know I needed to hear. It's time to stop protecting them. That broke me, because that's exactly what I'd been doing my whole life. Protecting them, covering for them, excusing them, shielding them from consequences because they're my parents. Because that's what good kids do. But where was that protection for me? Where was my shield when I had to beg friends for rides to school? Where was it when I skipped meals in college because they emptied my savings account? Where was it when they signed legal contracts under my name, sealed them with lies, and handed me the debt like a gift? It didn't exist. It never did. That day I realized something I wish I had seen years ago. They never really saw me as a daughter. Not in the way that matters. I was a solution, a fallback, an ATM with feelings they didn't think twice about stepping over. And once I stopped serving their needs, I became the villain. That's what finally broke my heart. Not the debt, not the betrayal, but the realization that love, in their eyes, was conditional, that I only mattered when I was useful, and that maybe I never really mattered at all. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, not my boyfriend, not my best friend, not even my uncle. I needed to feel in control, just once, without someone else's opinion steering my choices. My whole life, my family had dictated who I should be, how I should feel, what I should give up. But this was mine. So I sat at my desk, laptop open, and I began reading everything I could. Identity theft, financial abuse, the legality of forging someone's name to commit fraud. Every word on the screen made my stomach churn, because every sentence pointed back to my parents. Not mistakes, not family drama, crimes. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, clear as day. They had stolen my name, my trust, my future earnings. And for what? A utility bill? A broken promise wrapped in parenthood? I don't remember crying. That surprised me. I thought I would. But there was only this stillness, like something inside me had finally gone quiet. No more bargaining, no more hoping they'd fix it. Just truth. Cold, heavy truth. I made an appointment to speak to a legal advisor. I printed out every email, every notice, every court document. I even printed screenshots of the texts my mom had sent me just in case. And on the day of the meeting, I put it all in a folder and zipped it shut. As I walked out the door, I passed a picture frame on the wall, one of those generic family portraits taken when I was maybe 10. We were all smiling. I stopped and looked at my younger self. She didn't know. She didn't know her mom would one day ruin her credit before she even got her first apartment. She didn't know she'd be working overtime just to pay off a bill she never signed for. She didn't know that "I love you" would someday come with a catch. That photo was a lie. I turned it face down and left. The lawyer was calm, professional. He didn't blink when I explained what happened. That's what scared me the most, because it meant it wasn't rare. "Do you want to press charges?" he asked. I froze. That question hit like a punch in the chest. Do I? Because pressing charges meant possibly sending my own parents to jail. People who raised me, yes, with dysfunction, but still, they were my parents. The same mom who used to sing to me when I was sick. The same dad who walked me to school when it rained. But then I remembered the way my mom's voice sharpened when she told me, "It's your duty to help your family." The way she signed court papers in my name. The way she lied, smiled, and called it love. I looked the lawyer in the eye and said, "I want to stop them. I want this to end. For me, and for anyone they might do this to next." He nodded. "Then we'll move forward." When my mom found out I had spoken to a lawyer, she lost it. Texts, voicemails, emails, a total meltdown. "You're trying to destroy your family. You're going to ruin our lives. What kind of daughter does this? That last one stuck with me. What kind of daughter? But what kind of mother steals from her child and justifies it as a burden sharing? What kind of father lets it happen and says nothing? What kind of sister defends it and calls me selfish? That wasn't family. That was a pyramid scheme built on guilt. My uncle offered to help me move out of the apartment, said I could stay with him until I got back on my feet. My boyfriend offered to drive across the city just to hold my hand through the hearings. And for the first time, I let them. Because this wasn't just about debt anymore. It was about reclaiming my name and building a life that didn't have my parents' fingerprints all over it. When the court date was set, I sent one final message to my parents. I loved you. I wanted a relationship, but I will not sacrifice my future to protect your crimes. This isn't revenge, it's release. Then I blocked them both. No more arguments, no more you owe us, no more performing daughterhood in a family that never saw me as anything but a tool. And as I sat in that quiet apartment, packing boxes for a new chapter, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry. I just felt free. I didn't go to the courthouse expecting closure. I just wanted the truth documented. I wanted a room with walls where my voice didn't echo into silence, where my words didn't get buried under family guilt or smothered by excuses about doing what's best for the family. So I showed up. I spoke, calm, factual, controlled. I told the court what happened, how my identity was used without permission, how I'd never signed those contracts, how my tax return was stolen, how my wages were garnished, how I was left in the dark until the debt was mine to carry. And the court believed me. My lawyer was brilliant. He presented every document, every message, every timeline. There was no way to spin it. What my parents did wasn't just family drama, it was fraud. The court ruled in my favor. My wages would no longer be garnished. The debt would be reassigned back to the original parties. I would finally be free from their shadow. But there were consequences. My parents could be facing charges, maybe even jail time. When I walked out of the courtroom, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. I had finally chosen me. Since then, I've rebuilt. I moved in with my godfather for a while, someone who treated me like a daughter without ever demanding I pay for it. My boyfriend and I started looking at apartments, not because I needed a rescue, but because we wanted to build something together. I opened new accounts, got a credit monitor, created distance from everything that used to feel like a noose around my neck. But the thing I protected the most was my peace. Because there's something people don't tell you when you break away from toxic family ties. You will mourn. Even when they've hurt you, you still grieve the family you wanted them to be. There are moments I hear an old song, and I think of my mother's laugh. I remember the smell of her perfume, how she used to tuck me in when I was small, before life became a series of emotional transactions. I miss what could have been. But missing the idea of someone doesn't mean you owe them your life. Some people say, family is everything, but that's not true. Integrity is everything. Dignity is everything. Peace is everything. And sometimes the most radical form of love is walking away. I don't wish them harm. I don't pray for karma. I just hope that one day, when they sit alone and wonder where I went, they remember the moment they chose themselves, again and again, over their own daughter. And I hope that silence is loud. I didn't turn my back on my family. They turned their backs on who I could have been, if they had just loved me right. Now, I turn to you. Would you press charges against your own parents if they stole your identity? At what point does family loyalty stop being love and start becoming a trap? Let me know in the comments. And remember, your peace is not a betrayal. It's your birthright.